Have you ever noticed that temptation never comes disguised as something bad? On the contrary, it arrives with a charming smile, a promise of quick pleasure, and the feeling that no one will notice. But what if what seems harmless is exactly what's pulling you away from the purpose God has prepared for you? How many times have you caught yourself saying, "Just one more time," and that "last time" turned into a cycle that seems endless? Think about it. How many opportunities, relationships, and dreams have you seen fall apart because someone couldn't overcome a moment of weakness? Temptation itself isn't the problem. The problem is what it stirs within us. When the flesh speaks louder, faith becomes a whisper. But what if you could flip that script? What if you learned to silence the impulses and strengthen the spirit, even when everything around you seems to pull you the other way? Transformation begins when you realize that overcoming temptation isn't about strength but about surrender, not to weakness, but to God's will. In this video, you'll discover how the chosen one doesn't flee from the fight, but conquers it with wisdom. Every word you're about to hear is an invitation to break free from inner captivity and walk toward the freedom faith offers. Get ready, because what comes next could completely change how you face your quietest battles. There's a battle raging inside each of us, silent but constant. It's the struggle between what we want and what we know we should do. The flesh screams, demands, begs for instant gratification, but the spirit whispers calmly, reminding us there's a better way, even if it's narrower. Dethroning the flesh means taking control away from that impatient voice that always wants to be right, get revenge, or give up easily. It's recognizing that those who live by their impulses become slaves to them. Freedom begins when we understand we don't have to obey everything we feel. This is where faith comes in, that invisible force that lifts us up when we want to give up. Those guided by God learn to choose what's right, even when what's wrong feels more pleasurable. It takes practice, praying when you want to yell, staying silent when you want to snap back, serving when you want to withdraw. Little by little, the flesh loses its throne, and the spirit takes charge. And when that happens, something powerful is born within us, a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. But that choice isn't made once, it's made every day. Few things test the heart as much as injustice. When someone hurts you, everything inside you cries out for a reaction, as if returning the pain is the only way to ease what you feel. But it's precisely at that moment that the spirit speaks louder. Don't repay in kind. Choosing the spirit means acting with maturity when the flesh craves chaos. It's looking at the other person and seeing beyond the offense, remembering that God hasn't left you to face it alone. He's called you to be the chosen one who breaks the cycle of vengeance and plants the cycle of grace. Responding with peace isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of mastery. It's the kind of attitude that moves heaven in your favor because it shows you trust God more than your own emotions. The next time someone provokes you, try the opposite. Pray for them. Say their name in your prayers even if it hurts. You'll be amazed at what happens within you. Anger dissolves and faith matures. The flesh loses strength and the spirit begins to shine. And when this becomes a habit, the world notices something about you is different. No one goes far without paying a price. And in the spiritual world, that price is called discipline. It's easy to seek God's presence when everything's going well. It's hard to stay faithful when His silence feels louder than any word. The flesh hates routine, hates waiting, hates consistency. But that's exactly where the spirit grows strong. Every time you choose to pray despite exhaustion, read the word even if you don't understand it all, or act with kindness when no one reciprocates, something inside you grows. Character is shaped, and the heart learns the value of obedience. Discipline is the bridge between what you dream and what God has planned. It's the yes you repeat every day, even when the results aren't yet visible. Those who sow faithfulness reap favor. So instead of complaining about the process, embrace it. Train your soul to stay steady when your body wants to quit. The spirit grows stronger in resistance, not in comfort. And when you least expect it, you'll realize that the struggle that once consumed you has now built you. and that changes everything about how you face tomorrow. There's an enemy disguised as a friend, and its name is now. It whispers, "You deserve this, just this once, no one will know." And so haste takes the place of prudence. The problem is that the flesh lives on impulses, but the spirit lives on purpose. Instant gratification is the shortcut that steals your destiny. Buying what you can't afford, reacting without thinking, feeding desires that weaken your soul. All of this is trading the eternal for the momentary. Faith, on the other hand, teaches you to wait. It teaches you to trust God's timing, which is never late, even if it feels slow. Spiritual maturity is looking temptation in the face and saying, "This isn't worth my future." It's taking a deep breath and remembering that the chosen one doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Those who trust God don't chase pleasure, they reap purpose. And when you learn to let go of the immediate, you gain what lasts. Because every wait, when done in faith, brings rewards that time can't erase. It's in that patience that the Spirit proves stronger, preparing your heart for what's next. There comes a moment when you need to stop running and start looking in the mirror of your soul. Time passes, but the heart doesn't always mature with it. God isn't seeking perfection, He's seeking growth. And growth hurts because it requires admitting there's still much to change. How often do we react the same way we did years ago? How often do the same wounds drive our decisions? True faith invites an honest assessment. Am I more patient today, more generous, more like Christ than I was before? Spiritual maturity doesn't come from instant miracles, but from small daily victories. Reading the Word, serving without being noticed, forgiving those who don't ask for forgiveness. All of this builds the new you that God wants to see flourish. Transformation starts when we stop blaming others and face what needs healing in us. And the beauty is realizing that as we grow, the world around us changes too, because when the Spirit reigns, His reflection spreads. And in that quiet process, the old self begins to surrender. How many times do we pray for God to change someone else, and instead He changes us? It feels unfair at first. After all, the other person is the problem, right? But the Father knows the soul, and knows there are lessons hidden in frustrations. Sometimes He keeps certain people in our lives not to test our patience, but to expand it. Every difficult interaction is a mirror of what still needs to mature in us. God uses discomfort as a tool for refining and grace as the final polish. When we grasp this, peace comes quietly. We react differently, speak more calmly, wait with more faith. What once irritated now teaches. It's the Spirit taking the place of the ego and faith replacing impulse. It's not that the other person has changed, it's that you now see with God's eyes. And when that vision takes root, everything gains new meaning. The soul becomes lighter and the heart wiser for the battles ahead. There's no spiritual victory without sacrifice. Dying to self is the hardest and at the same time the most liberating act in the journey with God. It's looking at your own ego and saying, "Today you don't rule me." Each day brings a different cross, a word that needs to be held back, an attitude that needs rethinking, a pride that needs breaking. It's in this silent sacrifice that the Spirit manifests with power. The chosen one understands that losing their own will means gaining divine direction. And over time, something extraordinary happens. What used to irritate doesn't shake you as much. What used to make your blood boil now serves as a lesson. That's daily dying. And paradoxically, that's how you truly live. The flesh will scream, try to reclaim the throne, but faith responds with serenity. Living by the Spirit is constant training, a decision renewed every morning. And the more you practice, the lighter the path becomes, because the heart learns to choose love over reason. Inside each person lives a silent duel, the old self, driven by pride and wounds, and the new self, guided by grace and faith. Being a new creation doesn't mean the past is erased, it means it no longer has power over the present. Every day we're invited to put on this new self, to react differently, even when instinct demands otherwise. Peter, who denied Jesus, is a picture of this, an ordinary man transformed by an encounter with the divine. God doesn't erase the past, He redeems it. The old self reminds us where we came from, the new self shows where we're going. It's a daily exchange, letting go of resentment to embrace forgiveness, abandoning pride for humility. And this choice, though simple, holds immense power, because every time the new self wins, heaven celebrates a small victory on earth. And it's in this process of change that the Spirit prepares the heart for something even deeper. Everything that grows in you is the fruit of what you feed. If you feed fear, it becomes a giant. If you feed faith, it becomes a fortress. It's simple yet profound. What you hear, read, and think every day shapes your inner world. What you feed lives, what you ignore dies. When anger rises and you rehearse it, it gains strength. When pride speaks and you listen, it takes root. But if in the midst of it you pause and pray, the flesh loses its power. Choosing what to feed is an act of spiritual wisdom. Instead of feeding envy, feed contentment. Instead of filling up on comparisons, fill up on the Word. Want to change your mind? Swap minutes of complaining for moments of gratitude. Want to feel peace? Listen to worship instead of negative voices. Small daily decisions shape big transformations. The spirit grows when the flesh starves, and that's where true power is revealed, self-control. That's the seed of balance that leads to victory. Not every struggle you face is meant to be eliminated. Some are there to strengthen you. David defeated Goliath in a single day, but he endured Saul for years, and it was that time that prepared him for the throne. God doesn't always remove temptation, but He always provides the grace to resist it. Grace is the invisible fuel that keeps the chosen one steady when everything seems to collapse. It's the quiet presence of God saying, "I trust you, keep going." And when the heart chooses to endure, even without understanding, heaven moves. It's at that point that God finds mature servants ready to carry greater responsibilities. Temptation then stops being a threat and becomes training. Each resistance is a declaration. My spirit rules, my flesh is silent. And when that awareness dawns, the impossible becomes possible. Because faith strengthened by grace transforms the weak into the strong and the wavering into the victorious, just as God planned from the beginning.